Hey, what is up? Welcome to this episode of the Entrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofrumento. But the truth is, I'm not the only Brian in today's episode. I don't know if I've ever been able to say that in 600 episodes of this podcast history, but we are joined by an incredible guest today. One that, as soon as he popped up on our production calendar, I circled the date and I was like, gosh, that is going to be an incredible episode, not only for myself, but for all of you Entrepreneur to Entrepreneur listeners, because this is a guy who has been there and done that. From multi-million dollar companies to helping businesses get up and running from the ground, he has really effective ways of understanding business. That's how I'd really summarize Brian, is that he understands business. He speaks business in so many intricate ways. You're going to rethink the way that you view business growth, because this guy, quite frankly, is obsessed with business growth. So let me tell you a little bit about today's guest. His name is Brian Carmody. He has led and grown as owner and president a small regional manufacturer to nationwide sales that include huge enterprises like the U.S. Veterans Administration, United Health Group, Google, and Amazon. He led the multi-million dollar company to the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing companies 3 times, tripling revenue and lowering the break-even point by a whopping 80%. He's also authored 5 books about business growth. His 300 articles have been featured on Investopedia, ABC, CBS, Fox, NBC. He serves on the advisory boards of several different businesses. The cool thing about Brian, like I said, not only does he speak business, he understands business, he's passionate about business growth, but he has seen all different types of businesses. And that's where, no matter what your business is and what stage you're in, you're going to be able to leverage so many brilliant insights from Brian in today's episode. And before we dive into it, he's also a fellow Massachusetts native. Before I left Massachusetts, we were about 20 minutes away from each other, which is really cool. And now Brian helps businesses as the profit finder. He's a business coach who shows owners, entrepreneurs, and intrapreneurs a step-by-step process to increase profit, revenue, and valuation by making multiple small changes that compound. Remember that word, compounding. It's going to be at the root of so much today. Big results without gambling on paid advertising. I think all of that is a sexy enough sell to say I'm so excited to dive into my interview today with Brian Carmody. Brian, my fellow masshole, officially welcome to the Entrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast.
Oh man, what a fun intro. That was a lot of fun just to listen to.
Heck yeah, you make it so easy, honestly, because you have been there and you have done that, and there's so much tactical, strategic stuff that we're going to dive into today. But I always love to open the floor, tell listeners, go way beyond the bio. How the heck did you get here? Who is Brian?
I love how you ask who I am, and it's because it's a different question than what do you do, isn't it? And so to answer your question, who I am is I'm a guy who's driven by trying to help people excel, almost like the quintessential coach. I love to see other people get the gold medal, cross the finish line first, that kind of thing. And a lot of what's driven me over the years to try to start and grow businesses of my own, not even just coaching other people, but of my own, is I've always had this goal of trying to create businesses that are so successful that I can bring in family members and friends so that they can have a truly fun and rewarding and lucrative lifestyle and way of living. So that's what drives me every day. Is every business I start, it's to create something that we can all do together. We meaning my friends and my family, and everybody can benefit from that. So.
Yeah, I love that overview, and I share so much of that with you, and I'm going to call this out at the top of today's episode because I have some pretty strong opinions, as I'm sure you do, when it comes to business coaches. And for me, the thing that I've always struggled with about the coaching industry is, the classic thing that we all say, it's just coaches coaching more coaches on how to coach other coaches. But the reality is that makes you stand out in the way that I view your work is I love everything that you do, and it's because you already hit the nail on the head about it, is that you have your own businesses. businesses. You've started your own successful businesses. You don't just coach people on it. You have lived it, and you're constantly living it and evolving that along the way. Talk to us about some of those changes that you've seen. Having been in business as long as you have, obviously things have changed, but also some things have stayed the same. So I think it's going to be interesting to hear your perspectives on how business is shaping and evolving and how you've shaped and evolved along the way with it.
Love to give you some stories of that. And first, to beef up what you just said too, I absolutely am not, it's one of the things I'm very sensitive about too, is I am not you'll never see me selling a program or a course that teaches other people how to be coaches. I'm here I like to be on the front lines, and that for me means getting on the front line with every small business owner I can to help them really create life-changing income for them. So that's just one thing that's really important to me too. I thank you for calling that out. So like you said, how I got here, I've been in business, and I got through the good times and the bad times. I've been through the recession of 2008, 2009, 2010. That seemed to drag on for a while, and then the pandemic. And I'll drop some stories about how we got through each of those at different times and how that built me. But over the years, I've learned a lot from my first job out of the Army. I was on active duty from 95 to 99. And actually, active duty Army really shaped me. I had some incredible mentors, and just really shaped me to be the professional that I want to be, no matter what industry I ended up going into. But my first job out of the Army was with Pfizer Pharmaceuticals. And man, I'll tell you, it was a really great, I'm lucky to have that experience, to go through the training program that a Fortune 100 company puts out. And back then it was the year 1999. So, they were thriving. I mean, everybody wanted to work for Pfizer at that time, and they were just killing it. And they had a lot of money to invest in their employees and our sales development and understanding medicine and everything. So I learned a lot from that experience as well. I worked with some tremendous professionals. After a while, though, I wanted to it was such a big corporation, I wanted to get into something a bit more, again, I guess I keep using this term, on the front lines. I wanted to get into a smaller business where I could do a lot more and have my hands really a lot deeper in a smaller business. Typically smaller businesses, everybody has multiple jobs, and that's what I wanted. And that also, I worked for an incredible company, incredible people that I worked with for 14 years there, or 12 years there, sorry. And they taught me a lot, and I learned a lot. We went through the first recession together in 2008, 2009, and just amazing to learn from those folks, to see how they handled it and how it affected my peers and everything too. So a few years later, when I was invited to become an equity partner in Right Height Manufacturing, which is the manufacturing company you mentioned. Well, that's when I really got to lead something on my own, and that's the multi-million-dollar business that you mentioned as well, and it truly was. And I do like to talk about that with people, in that, yes, I took a business from, not, just around $1 million when I got there, and then we tripled it and got to the 5,000, all that. But I've also started businesses on the side in commercial real estate. I had a writing business for several years. I did some marketing consulting for a few years, and 6 months ago, I started my business coaching practice, and I still run the manufacturing company. And it's due to the fact that we've got systems in place, and I've got great partners that keep things going. And, not to compare myself to Elon Musk, right? But look, he runs 3 different companies. Lots of people, celebrities in Hollywood, have multiple companies, believe it or not, and I guess I'd like to tell that story just because I'm a regular guy. I came up from the ground up, hustling through corporate America and branching out with side hustles and everything. And I'm here to tell you that this opportunity and this possibility and potential is right in front of everybody here that's listening. I mean, you can do it. I'm not special. And, again, it doesn't have to look like Elon Musk does it. You know what I mean? He's on moonshot status, you know what I mean? But we can all do a couple of different things and manage those different things with our schedules once you have control over your life, which really, leads into the lifestyle design thing that I like to do with when I'm helping a business owner as well. So.
Yeah, I love so much about that overview, Brian. And I'm gonna share two things with listeners right here, right now. Which thing number one is that there's two ways to spot a Bostonian. One is that all of us have worked in either pharmaceuticals, healthcare, or finance. So that's for sure. So you tick that box. I already hear about your pharmaceutical background. And the second is that humility aspect of it, because so much of the story that you just told is rooted in that humility of saying, hey, I'm not someone special. It's something that I've echoed for 600 episodes here on the show is, I'm literally just like a random dude from the middle class in middle America or the central of Massachusetts. And so you're right that those possibilities are there. But the reason why I bring up healthcare, for example, is I worked in healthcare. You previously worked in pharmaceuticals, and I was a business analyst when I worked in healthcare, actually in your home city of Worcester, Massachusetts. And I remember when I started as a business analyst, they always kept putting me in these meetings with executives saying, hey, figure out what is going on with the executives so we can start improving the operations of the hospital. And Brian, you've already said the words a few times here in just a few minutes, which is you love being at the front lines, because I quickly realized it was the frontline workers that knew what was going on. The executives had no idea what was going on. It really is the importance of that front line. And I think that's what shapes so much of your business journey so far, is being on the front lines. And which leads me right into this line of questioning, because you've seen it. You've seen inside so many different types of businesses that you just shared with us. And there's a common plague out there where entrepreneurs want to convince themselves that, oh, my business is so different. What works for that business isn't going to work for mine. Talk to us about, from the front lines, how you see these parallels and overlaps and commonalities, even across different industries and business sizes.
A massive hot button for me, Brian. Thanks for bringing that up. I'll tell you, everybody, here's the secret. The gold, the way you really get ahead of the competition is to swipe ideas from other industries. You're not going to get ahead of people by doing the same thing that every other bakery is doing to promote themselves, or every other dry cleaner is doing, or every other chiropractor is doing, or every other dental office is doing. You pull in the strategies that are working in other industries and make them your own. And that's how you really propel yourself ahead. That's the secret. That's one of my favorite things that I bring to this, is that I personally have been in so many different industries, especially with the different small businesses I've started myself. So I'm exposed to all those different strategies that each niche has. And aside from that, just again, my own network of individuals that I've been able to accumulate over the years. I've got some incredibly smart people on the other end of any phone call I make, and I love learning from them. And it's a daily practice, and I learn what they're doing in their industries. For example, I've got a friend that's an incredible, real estate developer. He's 30 years, green developer, fantastic guy. And he is doing all the right things. And he's doing things where he's learned some strategies from, or he told me he learned a strategy from law firms. Okay. Real estate developer learning from law firms. He said, law firms often will advertise on TV because, yes, they're trying to attract and get people to call them to help with whatever their specialty is. Maybe it's personal injury or whatever. Okay, you get it. But the second thing that law firms are trying to do is they're trying to just get in the back of the mind of the judges too. They want to be known as a recognized entity. And what do we do in commercials, right? We tend to brag about ourselves a bit, in at least in the sense of showing their competence, right? So the law firm is showing their competence. So that gets buried behind in the back of the many judges' minds, and let's face it, probably the jury too in that area. And so what he did the same thing. So he's running TV ads as a developer. He's not selling anything from these TV ads, but it's a recognition campaign so that his target is the municipal approval authorities. So if he wants to do a green development, I'm talking solar farm, fuel cells, something like that, he wants to be an already recognized and trusted entity by those approval authorities. So when he goes into the municipalities, they recognize him. They may not quite get it yet, but they're like, oh yeah, okay, I'm familiar with this guy. I know the message somewhere, or I do recognize the name. Yeah, okay, I'll take a meeting with him. Let's get this done. So that's just one example of that kind of thing. A lot of another one that I'll just throw out there too is the subscription model. There's a lot of companies that traditionally have not been subscription models, right? But they've taken that on. So here's one well-known example. Think of Panera Bread. Okay, everybody knows the Panera Bread chain. So they, I don't know if it was 6 months ago to a year ago, they started a coffee subscription. So they're competing with every Dunkin' Donuts, every Starbucks, Aroma Joe's, every other privately owned bakery and coffee shop. There's a lot of competition in coffee. So what they decided to do is give people a subscription service or a membership model, and basically for $10 a month, you can come in and have as much unlimited coffee. It's they limit it to just their regular brewed coffee, not all the fancy coffees, but that's a great way for them to, number one, get a predictable revenue going every month. It gives them a chance to get some stickiness and get people in there. So when they come in for coffee, they're going to, sure, they'll get their quote unquote free coffee because they've already paid their $10 for the month, but they'll probably buy something else. So it's like that didn't start, the subscription model there didn't start in any bakery, or coffee shop, however you want to classify them. They took that from somewhere else and brought it in to their niche. So, that's how it's done. You gotta absolutely look at other industries.
Yeah, I love that. That's the way that you brought it, Brian, because it's something you articulated it far better than I've ever been able to. But when people always ask me what is the key to success in all different, because like you, I'm involved in all different industries. And I always say it's about connecting the dots that other people don't see, because success leaves clues. Yeah. And I could never quite articulate what those dots are that others can't see. But you're right. I'm glad that law firms were the first example that you used. I can't tell you how many times I've studied law firms, not because I care about what they're doing. Who cares about their legal practice? I care more about how they're doing that and how they're growing their practice. So I love that insight there. Really profound advice. I'm going to add a third way you can know if someone's a Bostonian, and that's if we use Dunkin' Donuts as the example. I love that snuck in there. So Brian, one big area that I'm so excited for listeners, obviously I've gone deep into researching you and your businesses, but I want listeners to really glean these insights from you when we talk about compound growth. And we're going to talk about your website at the end of today's episode, theprofitfinders.com. So people should definitely check out. Speaking of success leaves clues, there are so many clues on theprofitfinders.com. But one of the things that sticks out to me is your views on compound growth. And I'm going to read this so that listeners see where I'm coming from and why I'm so excited about it. So you wrote, while most people think marketing and advertising is the only path to grow your company, we take a different approach. We have found 40 different aspects of a business that can contribute to profit, revenue, and valuation. Marketing and advertising are just two. Brian, where do we go from here?
Oh man. So it's another one of those things that I almost there's like a deprogramming that has to happen. Kind of like so much of what we've already talked about, Brian. Trying to get one thing we're trying to get people to kind of move away from assuming is that their business is unique, right? Okay, here's another one though, is this idea of the only way to grow your business is by buying media, paying for ads and marketing. The problem is it's not anybody's fault. I mean, marketing and advertising people that's what they do. They're good at it. And what they're usually best at is selling themselves, even more so than their clients. And sorry, I'm just going to be blunt and honest here. And we're all hit with those solicitations every day. Check your LinkedIn messaging, check your Facebook Messenger, check Twitter, email, inbox. It's all like we're hit every day with, hey, do you want to buy my mailing list? Do you want to buy my email list? Do you want to, I can fix your business with my video program. We can do 30-second videos that are, guaranteed to 10x your business. I do cartoon ads, that can help attract more revenue for you. I do SEO. Everybody comes out at you with their one solution. They're tacticians. They know one tactic. They're good at it. And then they go and turn it around and use the biggest bullhorn they can and blast it at everybody and say, all you need is this one tactic. There's a saying that we have, in the States, when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? So the point is, it's like you can't. It's almost like what I started saying is it's not anybody's fault. That's just the I guess the narrative of the media, the tornado that we all live in every day when we open our phone or our computer. So some of the deprogramming I kind of have to do with people is say, look, there's a lot of ways to build your business. And I'll give you an example. So that don't require marketing and advertising. My own manufacturing company. Okay. We got to the Inc. 5000 list 3 times, like you said, tripled revenue, all that. We also spent a lot of money on various types of advertising, digital marketing, PR. Those things all produced 0 results. And when I say 0, I'm not being hyperbolic or provocative. I mean 0. That's a loss. That's not an investment. And advertising and marketing can be an investment. If you put in $1,000 into a marketing campaign and it brings back $10,000, that's an investment. That's not a cost. Okay. I'm telling you, my business spent thousands of dollars on marketing and advertising and PR, and none of it worked. And yet we still grew. So how did we do that? I'll give you, again, these are just a couple of examples, just from our business. Okay. It's not a cure all for everybody, but this is what we did. We did things like alliances and joint ventures. Okay. Which means, you look at an event chain, you look at where you are, what your buyer is in a process, right? It's another thing is maybe the buyer's journey, but it's bigger than just the journey within your little niche or service. It's a bigger niche. So for example, office furniture dealers, okay, they sell office furniture to companies, but the event chain really starts with their client or soon to be client, talking to an architect and a design firm and engaging them. Or if they're building something up from the ground, talking to a construction company. Or if it's a company looking to lease space, they're talking to a commercial, real estate agent. So they're trying to make relationships with those people first. And then the joint venture alliance type scenario comes in where those people make referrals to the office furniture dealer. So they'll say, hey, I've got a client that's out looking for 50,000 square feet of space. It's a lot of space, a lot of people. You should definitely give them a call. Or I told them to call you, even better, so that they can start planning their office furniture. Okay, that's what I mean by an event chain and joint ventures and alliances. That doesn't cost anybody any money. That's what I call just a little bit of ingenuity, creativity, elbow grease to pick up the phone and make those relationships and nurture those relationships. Other things are like offering other products and expanding your products and services. Okay. And then that gives you a chance to upsell, cross-sell, and downsell. Some other things that we did were we renegotiated with our suppliers. Okay. So we lowered our cost of goods sold, and we came up with some creative ways to avoid a lot of freight costs. So freight in the last few years has been astronomical. In fact, it was a worldwide news story throughout the pandemic, actually. And, freight was doubling and tripling the cost of products that were shipped around the country and around the world. So we came up with some ways to kind of take that all out of play, so to speak, or at least a major part of it. And as a result, as we went through the pandemic, when we came out the other side of the pandemic, we had done so many of these creative things that we lowered our break-even point by 77%. So you can't do that with marketing and advertising, and just for those who are maybe a little unfamiliar with the business jargon of break-even point, if you, to cover your costs in a given month, your overhead, so forth, let's say you have to make $10,000. So if you have $10,000 of cost, your break-even point is you need to sell $10,000 worth of profit. Okay. So not revenue, but profit. So that's your break-even. So when you pass that break-even point, when you lower that break-even point from, I'll just use round numbers, from $200,000 to $60,000, well, then suddenly all the profit you make above $60,000 that's gravy. That's like you've just lowered the benchmark to become profitable. And if you can do something like that, that's the money you put in your jeans at the end of the month. That's the money you take home. And that's the money that in a small business, like a dental office or a chiropractor or an ad agency, even any of them, a law firm, that's the money that changes lives. It changes the lives of families and people. It literally can save lives and marriages. And what I mean by that is, I'm not trying to be too dramatic here, but literally, sadly, there are a lot of cases where marriages break up over money stress. Businesses, somebody tried to start it. One of the man or the wife or the husband tried to start a business, or one of the partners tried to start a business. And if it failed and they went bankrupt or something, it can end a marriage. The same is true with, unfortunately, not to bring too much of a dark topic up, but, suicide. I mean, there have been, unfortunately, people who have taken that route because of massive financial failures. So that's why being a good coach really matters to me, because I'm not interested in coaching other coaches so that they can coach people or coach others. I'm here to help that law firm or that gym or that hair salon or that chiropractor to be able to not only stay in business, but get above that level of exhaustion and feeling like a hamster on a wheel, and bring home some real profit that they can do great things with. Whether that just be more comfort in life, maybe it's reducing their hours so they can spend more time helping the kids with homework, being a present parent, that kind of thing. That's the stuff. Being a present spouse. The impact that you can have on helping somebody in that way can make a huge difference in so many aspects of their life. This isn't all about, I talk a lot about profitability and everything, but there's a method to my madness, and that's it. That's the goal. It's helping people live happier lives.
Yeah, Brian, so much that I want to unpack from that last answer. And I love the fact that you stressed the importance of why we even talk about all this stuff. It goes far beyond just business. It is downstream effects that affect all aspects of our lives. So I love that. There's two things that I really want to call out for listeners right now from that last answer. And then I want to dive even deeper into kind of the profitability stuff. The first thing I want to call out for them is, Brian just gave you real life strategies and examples. Obviously, when we talk about compound growth and those 40 ways that go beyond marketing and advertising, Brian, one aspect of your messaging that I love is you say, don't gamble on advertising. And for newer companies, if you don't have a proven track record of turning ad dollars into revenue, then you are gambling. And so these are real life strategies that he just shared with you listeners. So go back, strategic partnerships, understanding the more macro buyer's journey. Those are tangible strategies that, as Brian pointed out, don't cost you anything. And the second thing I really want to point out is be careful about who you ask for advice. I like how you pointed out, Brian, how many of these service providers are tacticians. And I learned it in my early 20s when I was wondering, should I go back to grad school? Should I get my MBA? I quickly learned, well, if I ask people who have their MBA if I should get an MBA, they say yes. If I ask people who don't have an MBA if I should get an MBA, they say no. You're always dictating the advice that you're getting by who it is that you ask. Of course, advertising specialists are going to tell you to be advertising. But Brian, I think that's what makes you uniquely positioned is that you don't have a horse in the race. You're just like, no, I love business growth. And however you have to get there, let's come up with those creative ways to make it happen. Which leads me into the next thing that I cannot wait to hear your opinion about, because you've already started going down that path, which is talking about profitability. And you already highlighted the difference. I think we need to do it more in the world of entrepreneurship, the difference between revenue and profit. And so obviously it's right there in the name of your company, the Profit Finders. Talk to us about why that is such a strong emphasis on your entire brand, the way that your company shows up. But obviously, having been inside so many businesses, how does profit drive that growth? And how important is it? Because I'm going to add this because I know my listeners very well, especially for you entrepreneurs who haven't even started yet, go get a profit. It starts solving so many issues of starting a business, and it starts you gaining momentum. Brian, take it away.
Oh man, awesome. Yeah, and I definitely have to elaborate. I just realized I probably haven't elaborated on what profit acceleration through compound growth really is too. So I can do that in a quick minute as well. But yeah, that's awesome. So we help a lot of people with, or I help a lot of people with, they come to me with this goal of having $1 million business. Okay. And, it's like, that's great. But the first thing I want to do is usually what I want to do is they've got some success, they've got some revenue coming in already, but I want to make them more profitable and teach them that, you can actually, I basically just do the math for them. I show them that, look, with a $500,000 business, meaning gross sales and a higher profit margin, you can actually make way more money. If you grow up this $1 million annual revenue business, and your profit margin is only, 10%, you might not feel like you're really, it's a lot of work, number one, as you scale up a business like that, and you're not going to feel like you're taking home enough. So let's get you out of this like 5% profit range and working so hard to make, $50,000 or $60,000 with your $1 million business. And instead let's just, make you more let's triple your profit margin and by lowering your cost of goods sold or your overhead, and maybe even raising your prices too. And it's not, again, that's not just as simple as just raising your prices. I mean, there's a whole strategy that I teach to help people do, build up the education and expertise of their firm, of their company, so that people trust them and see the value in their product and say, oh yeah, of course I'll pay more for, I know that he's more expensive, but I get so much more value out of it. I'm going to pay the higher price, because people do really shop on value, not price. They only shop on price when you don't give them anything else to look at. If everything looks the same, then if you and your competitors all look the same, then all you've given your prospects is to look at is something to differentiate you by is price. So there are strategies that I teach that bring people, that really build up this huge foundation of building you up as the trusted expert. And there's those kinds of things can build your profit as well. Those are strategies. Okay. The tactic stuff is, okay, getting this like all-in-one CRM that'll help you do email drip campaigns and so forth. And email drip campaigns are a strategy as well. But the tactic is, which software am I going to use? What text am I going to put into the letter? Those types of things. So I like to spend a lot of time differentiating that you grow your business with strategy, and tactics are just the things. Those are the things that you can those are the commodities that you use to execute the strategy. But it's the strategy that makes the difference. The world is filled with tactics that are all lookalikes, and you can just use any one. So, compound growth through, profit acceleration through compound growth. What this concept is, and this will help answer your point as well about revenue versus profit. So many of these tactics that are sold to us, it is like gambling, because you're putting it all on number 7. They have to deliver big for you, or else, because there's nothing else going on. That's all they're offering. They're only offering the one tactic. What you want to do is work with somebody who can steer you from a higher level and say, okay, let's first figure out what your goals are for your life. And that's why I talk about a lot of lifestyle design when you design it. If you're a business owner, you have to look at how you're going to design your life around that business, or vice versa, and really design the business around your life. So we start there. And then second, we figure out, okay, how do we get there? What strategies will make sense to get us there? And then third, what tactics, let's roll out a paint by numbers plan over 12 months to make it happen. 3 months, 12 months, 18 months, whatever we see, whatever we agree upon. Now, compound, that allows you to use compound growth. So compound growth, everybody's familiar with compound interest and the concept of compound interest. The idea is that, when the interest keeps, instead of spending that interest, it keeps getting piled up and piled up and piled up. So for example, 30% of $1 million, it becomes $1 million and $1,030,000. And then you take, I'm sorry, did I say 30%? I meant 3%. 3%. And then you take 3% of that $1,030,000, and that becomes this bigger number. Okay. That's compound growth. So what I do in my whole strategy, or my whole process, is taking people through, you mentioned it, 40 different profit strategies, right? Maybe not all 40 work for every given business, but we figure that out together. And if we can get 12 to move the needle a little bit, 12 different areas of your business to make an impact of just 3%, 4%, that stuff adds up, because you keep compounding all these little wins on top of each other. Look, if you're familiar with baseball and you're listening to this, it's the difference between trying to stand up at the plate and swing for the fences and try to hit a home run out of the park. You're going to end up striking out a lot because you're taking these big, heavy whiffs at the ball. But for my process is about base hits. Hit singles, hit doubles, get on base. Those things, you keep doing that, and the runs are just going to keep coming in. So that's the two-handed strategy. Is you do a bunch of little conservative, you have set conservative goals, make small impacts. That way we're not ever going to be like turning your business upside down. We do strategies that just help increase different things. It could be in your financial position. It could be your market dominating position. Maybe you don't have a compelling offer, so when people get to your website, they just bounce away because they don't really have any reason to. You're not really getting them to do anything. It could be because you don't have referral systems. Let's install some referral systems so it's just automated and you can make that happen. Let's set up some alliances and joint ventures. Let's set up some policies and procedures and scripts so that your front office staff is handling incoming calls and incoming emails with a script that works, and then it's just repeatable and replicatable. And those are the types of things that create revenue. And then we lower the costs as well, because we're able to really systemize this stuff, and you're not recreating the wheel all the time. We're eliminating waste in all the processes, and that's what grows the profit. That's the money you get to take home. And when I say take home, what I mean is, sure, if you're the business owner, you can literally just take it home, put it in your bank account, right? But it also, if you're a business owner or larger businesses, definitely want to take that money and invest it back into the company. You could, work on new product development, develop out some new services. You could take that money and take care of your key employees that you want to make sure stay with you. And you do that through raises. You can do that through providing them training. Training is a big thing for that profit. And it's incredibly important now in this world that we're in, this work environment that we're in now, the hiring environment, to attract and retain workers with, investing in their training, because that's what people have said that they really want. Is they want the attention, they want their company to invest in them, they want to keep learning, and they want to feel like they're making a real contribution to the front line of the company. So if you can provide them training that shows a direct line of how they're doing that and saying, hey, look, we want you to take on more responsibility, but first we're going to train you how to do X, Y, and Z. You up for that? People are going to raise their hand and say, yeah, absolutely. And you get them through that training and you give them that responsibility, they're much less apt to start looking around on, monster.com and Indeed looking for another job that happens to offer them $5,000 more per year. So those are some of the reasons why we care about profit so much, because it's the money you can actually do something with, that you can really make lives change, whether it be investing in people, giving them raises, training, adding to your sales team, hiring more people, growing that way. So that's why, profit matters. That's why we focus on it so much. Revenue is more of a vanity number, a vanity metric. I don't really care if your business makes 2 million or 1 million or 10 million. How much of that do you actually keep, or is 95% of that spent on costs? Is 95% of that going out the door because your bills are so high and you've got a lot of waste in your company, or you've got a lot of turnover too. We know turnover is a very expensive thing. So again, investing in your people is a huge motivator for me too, and just how this can relate to the intrapreneur that I talk about, the people that I do serve, not just business owners, but corporate managers too, because they can also benefit from these philosophies and strategies.
Yeah, I love so much about that answer, for sure, Brian. And the reason that I love the way that you talk about these things is because obviously you're very intentional about your words, is that you've been doing this for so long that to you, strategy versus tactics, for example, the way that you use those two words intentionally shows a lot. And I'll borrow a phrase from chess, where in chess, because when I was learning chess, I was like, I have no long-term strategy. Like if there's a piece to take, I can take it. Yeah. And that's where I started learning. That's the question of strategy versus tactics. And in the chess world, they say strategy is knowing what to do when there's nothing to do. Tactics are knowing what to do when there's something to do. And so to apply it to the stuff that you just shared with us is that, yeah, when there's a customer there that, you just got to pick up the phone and get their payment information, that's an easy tactic to execute on. But I think the harder stuff is getting these strategies right. And I'm sure that listeners hearing you, it's so easy for you. You off the cuff will just come up with a ton of different example strategies. And I think listeners are going to say, well, how the heck should I focus in on a strategy? And my answer to them, quite frankly, is that's why frameworks work. That's why experiences work. That's why we're going to talk about Brian's website in just a few minutes here. But that's why going through trainings, having checklists, having a coach or a guide along the way that has these strategies, so then you can start putting the puzzle pieces together. You can't put the puzzle together if you don't even have the right pieces. So I love the differentiation that you make so consistently about strategy versus tactics. Now, Brian, I also will say, I knew before we even hit record today that no matter where we ended today's conversation, listeners are going to be like, wait, what? I need more of this. And that's why I am going to plug, before I even open the floor for you to tell listeners where they should go to learn more about you, this is a really easy place for me to say, this conversation, obviously we're limited in time today, but Brian has so many incredible free resources. Maybe it's us Bryans that we love giving back and we all have free resources. But for example, on his website, you're going to see right at the top, Do you know what 3 mistakes business owners make that practically guarantee they will spiral into exhaustion and frustration? It is a free training right then and there on his website. Just go get your hands on it. Obviously, we could talk all day long about all of this stuff, but it all exists for you to benefit from. So that's just my really plug, honestly, because I'm a big fan of the work that you're doing. And I know we're only touching the tip of the iceberg here in today's session. So as we close out this interview, Brian, of course, I want to open the stage for you. If you've got one piece of advice for listeners of what they should do in their business to reassess, I'd love for you to share that with them. And then also, obviously, that's going to lead naturally into share with listeners where the heck they can learn more about all the work that you're doing and everything over at the Profit Finders.
Absolutely. Hey, today was so much fun, Brian, and I just can't wait to come back tomorrow and do it again with you. That's a joke. I'm kidding. So it's hard to say just one thing because everybody's at a different stage, right? But I think really it's if you could just sit back and say, wait a minute, what can I do to grow? What ways can I grow my business if ads and marketing were completely off the table? Have fun with that little exercise and say, let's pretend that I can't go out. There's no mechanism for me to go out and buy social media ads or hire an SEO expert or a copywriter or whatever. If not, you can even take it a step further. What if I didn't even have a website? And I'm telling you, there are a lot of businesses who do very well with no website. You don't know who they are because they don't have a website, but they're doing business, and that's all that matters. It matters to them. So try that exercise on for size, and that'll start to spur your creativity, and then just start reading and getting ideas from other places too. So on that note, Brian, I did create a page just for your listeners to give away some free gifts as well, on top of the free stuff that I already have at theprofitfinders.com. And I'll give you the URL so you can put it in your show notes. But basically, I'd love to just tell everybody what's there. So first off, just for the listeners here, I'm offering my latest book, which is a short read. It's only 90 pages. But here's the thing. It's 10 chapters, but each chapter explains in detail a different profit strategy. So basically, getting the book is like getting 10 of my profit strategies, 10 of my 40 profit strategies for free. And, each chapter is about 9 pages. So there's a lot, there's a lot of examples in there. So that you can really start to apply. And again, like Brian and I talked about, don't get wrapped up on the fact that the example in any given chapter isn't the same industry as you are. That's where the value is. See if you can take what they're doing in that particular industry and can you overlay it into your industry. That's where you're going to see, accelerated growth. The second thing that's free on there is they'll get a link to an online profit acceleration simulator. So that allows them to go and plug in their own numbers, Brian. So they can put in, they can put in their actual revenue and say like, hey, if I'm making $250,000 a year, and they can put in their gross profit and their net profit. And then they can start to look at all of the 40 profit strategies I have, and they can start to look at, well, what if I just made a 3% impact here? What if I made a 3% impact here? What if I made a 3% impact on these 12 strategies? What if I did it across 40 strategies? And the numbers will change for you so you can see the difference in your revenue, your profit, and even your business valuation. So it's just a great way for you to simulate different events. And you can, again, you don't have to put in your own, you can put in your existing current revenue, or if you want to just dream and say, well, if I could get the company up to $1.5 million, what would that look like if I, added these strategies in? And those are all based on compound growth. And the numbers come from 497 weighted algorithmic sequences. So there's a lot of data science behind that, okay, that we scraped from actual results. So those numbers are really, really good and fun. The third thing that everybody's going to get for free, or some people get for free, let me explain. I do a group group coaching mastermind model as well. And it's a much less expensive way to work with me, learn from other groups, from other business owners in the group. And anybody from Wantrepreneur who joins a cohort group with me, I'm going to give them free access to my online library, which is filled with about 50 swipe files, about 300 hours of courses, and a lot of case studies too. So people usually pay $2,400 a year for that. And I'm going to be able to give everybody that for free if they join my mastermind. And there's a little bit of a short application process. I just, we got to take in people that are really, they have the eye of the tiger and really want to make a change and really commit to implementing what they learn and reporting back to the group. But aside from that, it's fun as heck, and there's nothing better than propelling your success by learning with others, because just the accountability is awesome. It makes all the difference sometimes. So there's those three things will be available on the landing page link that I'll send to you, and you can put in the show notes. Okay, Brian?
Heck yes, you all heard it right there. And I knew that Brian would not leave us stranded when it comes to helping us identify the strategies that are going to grow our businesses. So if you listened to this episode today and you're just like, gosh, Brian really exposed how I just don't have a strategy or a roadmap in my business, you don't have to be stranded from here. Brian has all of those resources. So check down below for that very special link that I know you're going to want to get your hands on. So check the show notes wherever it is that you're tuning into today's episode. Brian's website is also available at theprofitfinders.com. And I think it's safe to say, here we are at the end of this episode, that Brian, I can see exactly why people call you the Profit Finder. So I'm so excited, and thank you so much for joining us here today on the Wantrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast.
Brian, it was an honor. Really enjoyed it.